Oh, hello, and welcome to another today's Decay, where we celebrate births and beginnings of everything important since the dawn of time, July 28th edition, all day. And today, in 1840, Edward Drinker Cope was born, who was a paleontologist in like the Gilded Age, who is responsible for identifying and classifying a significant amount of ancient creatures from whatever leftovers they left for us, bones, I mean. And he was in like a war with this other paleontologist that they refer to it as like the Bone Wars. And this was all like, I won't say it was all bad science, but in like the mid to late 1800s, they were cutting corners as much as they wanted to for like bragging rights to say I discovered more than you did, whether that's like dinosaurs, whether that's like archaeology with like the pyramids and everything. There may have been some basis for science here, but I think in a later generation or two, people were held a lot more accountable to like due process than they were in Cope's time. But yeah, he was involved with something called the Bone Wars, which I think is really fun. But you know, how much of it is based on ego rather than reality is a problem. Science deserves reality. Yeah. 1887, speaking of reality, Marcel Duchamp was born. Dadaist, of course. Probably his most famous work would be that urinal that he signed R. Mutt. But are you sure this was his creation? Recent findings point all roads may lead back to Baroness Elsa von Freytag Lorenhoven, of which, you know, full disclosure, I'm a big fan of hers, so I want that to be true. But I don't know if it is or not. But yeah, I believe it. I believe it. 1913, Laird Kruger was born, who was a Hollywood heavy who was determined to be like a romantic heartthrob. And because he was larger of frame and stature, it was not to be the case. Instead, he wound up playing in a series of very successful John Bram directed gothic melodrama horror films, The Lodger and its follow-up Hangover Square, which are basically like him playing Jack the Ripper in London cobblestone fog-shrouded street environments, and it's just fantastic. He was dealing with his weight issues and was very sick from it. I forget if he was bulimic or anorexic, but something like that. And the film Hangover Square, I believe, was his last film, and it was shot out of sequential order. So there's points in it where he walks, like, you know, out of one frame, like, you know, through a doorway, and his clothes are fitting just fine, and then like he walks through the doorway into another room, and like his clothes are hanging off of him, and he's lost like some, you know, significant amount of weight. Anyway, he didn't last much longer than that. I think actually the film might have come out posthumously as far as him passing away. He's also in I Wake Up Screaming, starring opposite Betty Grable. It's probably a couple of years before both those John Braun films, which is a great film noir. Yeah, I can commiserate with Betty Grable waking up screaming these days. Painful, as is it painful being here in Times Square. 1957, Jerry Lee Lewis premiered on the Steve Allen Show, which is enormous because back then people, everything was like regionalized, very local. You didn't have like syndicated stuff across the country or around the world, except for like a couple of like, you know, much larger examples, the Steve Allen Show being one of them. So Jerry Lewis, the killer himself, would have been, and his pumping piano would have been like broadcast into homes all over the damn place on this day in 1957 via the Steve Allen Show. And in 1989, Friday the 13th, Jason Takes Manhattan premiered, and it barely at all takes place in Manhattan, but it did right here in Times Square. So I thought, what's more threatening, Camp Crystal Lake? No, Times Square. With all these people. Ah! That's it. Today, all day, from us to you. Till tomorrow. Goodbye.